Welcome to the Veterans Cafe Podcast, Episode 7.
My name's Tracy.
And I'm Wes.
And this is the first time that we are trying a podcast with me in a different state than my husband. So normally we're in the same room, but right now I'm on a mission with Combat Camera, and I'm in Georgia, and my husband's at home in Florida. So we apologize if the recording isn't amazing, but I'm calling with like a portable microphone connected to Skype.
Yeah, definitely. This podcast obviously won't be as the fantastic quality that we do try and bring you on all the other podcasts. However, it is over Skype, and it should still sound pretty decent. We hope. If there's a little disconnection here and there, and we apologize. Like we've told you guys before, we want to try and do this thing live eventually, so we do try to go through this podcast as much as possible all the way through without too much post-editing, because we want to try and get used to the idea that we're going to have to continue this thing all the way through every time. So we do apologize for any interruptions, anything like that, but we're still going to truck this thing on. So as of right now, that's Whiskey saying hello, everybody.
My baby.
Which they do miss you very much, just so you know. I can see them sitting around sulking right now because I'm not giving them any attention.
Oh. I miss my children.
So tell us a little bit about where you are, what it's like. What do you think about Savannah, Georgia?
Well, I flew into Savannah really early, day before my mission started, as most of the time you're supposed to, right? And I was really lucky because the NCOIC is someone that I worked with in the past, so we were able to drive around a little bit of like the base that we're staying at, which neither one of us had been to before. And then we drove around downtown Savannah, which I have to say is incredibly gorgeous. The whole cobblestone area, the little bars, the little shops, most of it's on the water. I actually called my husband pretty soon after, that trip out, and was just like, we have to come up one day for like a weekend or a day or something. So I just really like Savannah so far. Everywhere we went, everybody was really friendly. We'd heard about like all the haunted cemeteries. So we were literally driving around like, hey, where's a haunted cemetery? And it was pretty funny because everyone was like, they're all haunted in Savannah, but if you go that way, you can see this one. And it was just beautiful. It's a beautiful city.
Well, I definitely would be all about taking a trip up there at some point. There's so much historical stuff to see there. It would be really awesome. And of course, how far away is Savannah from the water?
Well, where we were in downtown Savannah, we were like on the pier. We were like on the water.
Yeah, so, and that's, there you are. We were just talking last time about or one of the other times about the whole, Gulf of Mexico scale. That's what we were on, right? In the clearness of water. Now you're on the Atlantic scale. That's like you're like in a whole new ball game. It's a whole new playing field.
I know. It's so pretty. You would love it. The buildings and, just the houses. You could just tell that there's a conscious effort to maintain, like the original architecture. It's just beautiful. You'll love it. Everybody who lives there, I'm so jealous. It's very pretty.
Yeah, well, it's definitely something I would love to see at some point. But a little more to the point, so you're up there for a training event, right? I mean, there's some type of training event going on around Savannah, Georgia, and you're there to cover it as a combat camera soldier. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't want to go into too much specifics of where I'm at and what I'm doing quite yet, just because, there's like, some regulations and things I can't say, but we're working with the Air Force National Guard, and we're documenting, some fighter pilot training. And it's amazing because, of course, I'm in the Army. I'm not in the Air Force, and the Army has a ton of acronyms. And it's funny because, I've been in the Army just under 6 years now, right? Next month is my official 6-year mark. And I called my husband because I couldn't stop laughing to myself. When we met today with our point of contacts, for the Air Force, as far as like what the mission is and what they're expecting, what kind of product they want. And when they want product, they talk about, still photography or video or a combination of both and what have you. So when we sat down with our contact today, it was a room full of Air Force men, and my NCOIC, is in the Army with me as well, obviously, right? Because we're in the same unit, and we were taking notes separately, and our point of contact with the Air Force was just talking, and he was like, yes, so there's this aircraft, there's that kind of aircraft, there's this ground crew, there's the crew that's in, the tower, and then there's the people here and the people there, and everything was just jargon, and everything was just like, well, yeah, there's the 35 and there's the 16 and there's the 22 and there's the JTAG, and they were going on, and they were like, and do you have, certification, for, God, what was it, the different G forces of the altitude testing? And we were like, no. And they were like, okay, do you have licenses to be on the flight line? No. Well, because, you have to have this card. You have to have the certification. You have to go through security clearance. And we were like, no, we're in the Army. And it was just funny because by the end of the,
we were just wondering, have you recently conducted your annual astronaut space exploration testing? No? Well, what the hell's wrong with you? Of course you need to. It's an annual thing. It's upkeep, all right? You have to recertify every year.
Oh, God, it was hysterical because I'm with my little notepad and my paper trying to, I don't obviously write shorthand, but I have my own shorthand, and I'm trying to go really quickly, and I happen to glance up at the E5, in the Army with me, and luckily he had the same expression, and once he realized I had the same expression, he just stopped everything and said, okay, guys, we don't know what in the hell any of you are talking about. And of course they're like, oh, really sorry. And it just made us all laugh. But of course, it's just one of those things that I think when you're in the military, I think you kind of forget that over time you learn all these acronyms. Acronyms.
We need an acronym for the word acronym.
Or what have you.
Just call it AC.
I know.
That way
there you go.
We can simplify it.
AC. But I don't know. I just thought it was worth mentioning that, for everyone out there, if you are in the military, please try to have some sort of just awareness of who you're talking to and who your audience is. Otherwise, your audience is just going to be incredibly confused.
Yeah.
And it's just not necessary. It's funny. But.
So talking on that, can you think of any real world situations that you've ever had where you just pitched out an acronym at somebody and they looked at you like, what language are you speaking right now? Have you ever? Can you think of a time like that?
Well, I don't know. I have been known to say SP time when I'm talking to my mom. Which is not a conscious thing, but it just comes out. And just military time. I'll say I don't know 2300 or something, and somebody looks at me like, what does that mean? I don't know. I don't think at least I get into like this jargon, but again, I've always been a reservist, so that might be part of it, but I don't know. I just thought it was worth talking about in this podcast.
No, yeah, but for sure. Cause every time you go to one of these and just this last podcast, we talked a lot about, or I believe the podcast before, we talked a lot about, job hunting and stuff like that. And every single military website you go to, and they're like, all right, guys, now when you're writing your resume, leave out all the acronyms and the military jargon and whatnot. So I would imagine on some level, everyone must go home and every once in a while, even by accident, just throw it out, I've tried to be really conscious about it, and avoid talking in acronyms and military jargon and all that kind of stuff to friends and family and all that. But and it worked too. But occasionally, I do use it as a joke because I know that it confuses people. So even at work, somebody will come around me and they'll start messing around or moving my paper or steal a pen or something, and I'll tell them to get out of my AO, and they'll just look at me like they don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But intentionally speaking, like in a serious way, I don't typically talk to someone and tell them that I'm SPing for work at 0700 or anything like that. So I do consciously try to avoid it. And honestly, it's probably made it a little bit easier now that I'm in the reserves. The whole active duty thing, that's all you talk. It's acronyms and cuss words. Those are literally the only two things that come out of your mouth. So it's a little bit difficult to not take that home with you when you go on leave or you're visiting friends or something like that. So it took a little bit of an adjustment for me when I got out of active duty and started, the National Guard thing, to sort of get out of that whole habit which is not very good in a civilian way. So
yeah, it's actually pretty funny because my husband asked me not too long ago if he did that to me when we met, but to be honest, I joined the Army pretty soon after we met, so I can't remember a time where he actually ever did that to me. Do you?
No, that's why I was asking you, because I couldn't, with that kind of stuff, I'm not going to remember it. I was just, if I had done it, I would have been talking to you just like normal, like I talk. So
yeah.
So I wouldn't have remembered it. It's like you asking me if I remember telling you that I was going to the store to get milk the other day or something. I mean, it's just the way that I talked for a time, and it's the way a lot of soldiers talk for a time, especially when they're coming back from a deployment. Everybody talks about when they come home from a deployment, they have all these little issues, not even really issues, just like these little niches, that they have where, the whole, like I wore a 9mm the whole time I was overseas last time. First time I've ever done something like that, right? I've never carried a pistol before. I always carried a rifle. Well, I wore a 9mm the whole time, and so, when you get home, you get used to feeling that weight on your hip, or even the rifle, you feel you're used to having that weight slung over your shoulder, or at least having it within an arm's reach kind of thing. So every once in a while when you get home, you have that, little mini panic attack that you hope no one saw. You try and kind of hide it as best you can, but there for a second, like your stomach jumped up into your heart and you're like, where's my rifle? You have that little moment, that hopefully no one else sees or realizes. And, so when you get back, especially from a deployment, after living that lifestyle for so long, 9 months to a year or something like that, it's definitely much harder to get out of those kind of habits, to get out of the whole, hey, you gonna go ahead and make a quad chart for what we got to do today? And what the hell's a quad chart? So it's I don't know, and I don't feel like I've had too much of a difficult time getting out of it when I came home from any deployments or anything like that. But like I said, I don't know, because if I was doing it, that'd just be me talking normal, right? So I'm not really sure. I've tried to be conscious about it, but I don't really know if I'd do that well with it.
No, I think so. I mean, I think the worst that you and I ever do is just profanity. I think if I was in school for just under 9 months, you were deployed, for just over 9 months. And when we came back, almost every other sentence was like profanity, right? So I remember, I think you were back for maybe like a week, and I was like, okay, once we're talking to each other, we need to work on it again. I don't know. It's just funny to me. Yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that we've drastically reduced it at this point. I mean, it's not like I can go to work and start just cussing at people, which is kind of funny, Yeah. I've always imagined that people, when they hire veterans, which I just got hired on with the company, I always imagine that they probably think, well, this guy's going to come in here, put on the drill sergeant hat, and get this place, straightened up real quick. No, not really going to come in there and start upsetting everyone and, acting that way. But it makes you wonder, what they think about veterans working in the workplace. Oh, what? You just got back from Afghanistan like 3 months ago, huh? Hey, should we keep like some kind of security watch on this guy to make sure he doesn't like lose it in the middle of the day or something? It's just kind of what I imagine I have going on in my head. But of course, that's probably not the case. I mean, they probably wouldn't have hired me if they had imagined that, But still, I do try to keep like a conscious effort of what I'm saying, what I'm doing, how I'm interacting with people, things like that. Especially if you work in like a customer service environment, you really have to kind of tone down any lingering aspects of your military personality that you may have if you were in that kind of environment, So and personally, I think I've done a pretty good job of it. But I know it can definitely be a challenge for a lot of guys out there and girls.
Yeah, no, I agree. But and I just have to say, because today, in this room was surrounded with, the Air Force, and they were talking with their jargon. It just it was a good reminder for me to make sure that I'm careful in the future of who my audience is. Because, I got to see the other end, and it's not fun because you're confused and you're trying to keep up, and then you don't want to interrupt, but then you have to interrupt because you're just going to continue to get more lost. And I don't know, it's just like this little, inner panic, and you just don't want that for your audience, whoever they are.
Yeah, no, that's definitely for sure. But so getting back a little bit more, we've again sort of strayed from the path, which we seem to. Every podcast just seems to be one huge stray from the path. But sort of getting back to it a little bit. Obviously, you're going to be there for, what was it, 60 days or
16. Yeah, so anyway, the next couple of days are going to be really long, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and try this today before we lost a little bit more calendar time. And that sounds like whiskey with the squeaky toy.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, your daughter's going to drive me insane. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, when the dogs are bad, they're yours. And when they're angelic, like, heavenly creatures, they're mine. So right now, they're yours.
I'm not going to agree with you because I didn't buy them these toys that annoy the ever-living crap out of me. That was you.
No, but look, I can't see her, but I know her face. She just loves them. I can't wait to see them. The hardest part for me about being away from them, like when I was in school, they were staying with different people, was just that, they don't speak English, so they don't understand. And I'm not saying that, human children, I'm not saying it's easier or worse. It's just for me, I find it so sad because they whimper and they cry. And just the other day when they saw me leave with my duffel, remember the other day to go to the airport? Whiskey had her feet on the door, and it broke my heart.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. They're here and they're entertained.
I know. Well, anyway, just as far as the acronym thing, I just thought it was just worth mentioning today because I just had that funny experience. And of course, this is the first time we're trying the podcast with somebody on Skype. So we definitely appreciate everybody's patience because I'm sure the sound isn't as nice.
Yeah, so despite our little Skype podcast here, for those of you that are listening, thank you for tuning in. You can definitely email us. Please do. If you're listening, email us and let us know about any stories that you may have where you may have been engaging a potential employer or a family member or something, and you started throwing out Army acronyms and they looked at you like you were psychotic. We would love to hear those stories. We find them hilarious. So if you have any of those kinds of stories, email us, themax@vetscafe.com. Or you can find us on our Facebook page, Veterans Cafe Podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. If you have a moment, please take the time to head over to iTunes and give us a short little review. We would very much appreciate it. But again, thanks for tuning in to episode 7, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Bye!